Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. Shemeka Michelle is going to join me at the back end of this show. We'll talk about Don Lemon and his accusation that you'd have to be irrational to be black and a MAGA supporter. I definitely have some thoughts on that. We'll open today's show talking about Jeremy Boring and his crash out as the CEO of the Daily Wire. That news broke yesterday afternoon. I'll have some thoughts on that as we start the show. And then I'm going to transition into something I've been talking about on my social media feed that connects to the whole Jeremy Boring crash out about the sacred narratives of victimhood that must be protected at all costs and why I reject that. And so, interesting, newsworthy show, but some interesting narratives that I'm going to debunk or talk about. And then Shemeka Michelle and I will wrap up the show. Anyway, I'm looking forward to today's show. I think we're going to deliver for you in a big way. I do want to take a little bit of time here just off the top and explain to you about one of the great benefits I've been receiving from this new house of mine is all the extra storage and pantry space. And so now I can legitimately prepare for disaster. And I don't call me a prepper because I am a prepper. And you don't want to be caught with your pants down when disaster strikes. You want to be prepared. I got all the space I need to prepare now, and I'm doing it with my Patriot Supply. You can order their 4-week emergency food supply today and get 4 72-hour food kits completely free. That's almost 2 weeks of bonus meals at no cost. Each of these kits offers more than 2,000 calories per day of delicious, easy-to-prepare meals that last up to 25 years. All you have to do is go to preparewithfearless.com to claim your kit, plus an extra 12 days of food for free. Go to preparewithfearless.com. Meet me there. I'm preparing my new house, my new pantry, my Patriot Supply. Go to preparewithfearless.com. All right, let's get today's show off and rolling. Jeremy Boring has stepped down as the CEO of the Daily Wire, and he did this with a tweet. Yesterday afternoon, he tweeted out a story from Axios, exclusive Daily Wire co-CEO Jeremy Boring to step down. The story reads, Jeremy Boring, co-founder of the Daily Wire, is stepping down from his role as co-CEO to focus on creative projects for the company, he told staff in a memo obtained by Axios on Tuesday. They say why it matters. Boring has been with the Daily Wire since its inception in 2015. He helped grow the outlet from a tiny news startup with $4.7 million in seed funding to a media giant valued north of $1 billion last year. State of play, they said Caleb Robinson, the company's founding CEO, will become the company's full-time CEO effective immediately. Robinson and Boring have been co-CEOs since 2019. In a note to staff, Boring said he will remain with the company in an advisory role. He will continue to host the Daily Wire Backstage, the company's monthly show featuring Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Andrew Klavan. He will focus full-time on creative projects, including the completion of the Daily Wire's TV series, The Pendragon Cycle, in which he serves as director and executive producer. Their final thought here, Boring has led the Daily Wire's commercial expansion over the past decade, growing the outlet from a social media publishing brand to a streamer and e-commerce giant. So, Jeremy Boring, the self-proclaimed, self-titled God King, lowercase God King, is stepping down, and I can't say that I'm shocked. If you've been following Jeremy Boring on social media, particularly on X, particularly on now called X, formerly called Twitter, you've been watching a guy pick fights, not just with me, but with Tucker Carlson, with Candace Owens. You've seen a guy that mishandled Candace Owens' relationship with the Daily Wire and exit from the Daily Wire. You've seen him mishandle his relationship with Brett Cooper. You've seen Jeremy Boring, and this is hindsight because at the time, I can't say that I saw it this way. But clearly, he must have mishandled something with Steven Crowder. If you remember that blow up and Crowder secretly tape recording Jeremy Boring and trying to expose him. I didn't particularly like Steven Crowder's tactics there, secretly recording someone. But having watched Jeremy Boring over the last year, I could see how he perhaps contributed to a relationship that would get that kind of toxic where Steven Crowder would go to those types of lengths to try to expose Jeremy Boring. And I know many of you will sit there, oh man, this is just personal. You don't like Jeremy Boring because he's been coming after you. And trust me, any of you that have watched this show consistently and followed me consistently, when I have a personal problem, and when that personal problem interferes with my perspective and point of view, I'll be the first to tell you, hey, don't take this too seriously because I don't particularly like this person, and part of my opinion is driven by my dislike of this person. I don't like Jeremy Boring. Nothing I'm saying here is born out of that dislike. We've been watching someone crash out and smear people unjustly and use the tactics of a leftist. I've been complaining about that. And yes, it did start with me. When the man took me completely out of context about what I said about Andrew Tate, and anybody that has watched this show understands my entire perspective on Andrew Tate. When I kept bringing on the common sense skeptic and these guys that have done full documentaries, multiple of them, and I've been pretty much the only one shining a light on these researchers in Canada that don't like Andrew Tate and continue to expose Andrew Tate and show you what Andrew Tate said out of his own mouth, labeling, defining himself as an unrepentant pimp and a con artist. I've been real consistent and have watched other people in the conservative media space somewhat defend or have a more sympathetic point of view as it relates to Andrew Tate. My position staked out very clearly early on and consistently. And then I come to an epiphany about, hey, where's this loyalty to Andrew Tate coming from? And I go on to explain it, about how there's an information war and how we as Christians have failed young men, and that Andrew Tate has exploited our failure to build a following and to be that masculine leader that they're looking for that we're not providing. And I blame myself. It's like, hey, man, you can't continue to be obese and think you're going to reach these young people the way that Andrew Tate is. And this is all spelled out. And then I watched Jeremy Boring accuse me of defending Andrew Tate and because I gave an explanation of where his support comes from. And he did this because he was upset that I criticized some plan they hatched to, we're going to free Derek Chauvin and we're going to lead the movement. This is the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro as the front man. We're going to start a campaign for Donald Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin. And I was like, hey, this is a dumb idea. This is going to cause Trump all kinds of headaches. This won't even spring this man from prison because Trump can pardon him from his federal charges, but these state charges of second-degree murder, they go nowhere, and this man goes from federal prison to state prison. I got to be careful here. and again, I'm going to label what I'm about to say as speculation. I think it's informed speculation, but it is my speculation that the way Jeremy Boring jumped on me for my light criticism of their dumb idea, suggesting Trump blow up the early part of his second term as president, and he jumps on me and says something about, oh, if Ben Shapiro cured cancer, Jason Whitlock would hate it or find a way to criticize it. I was like, what? This was irrational, unnecessary. Like, where's this coming from? This is the beginning of his crash out. And this is the speculation part of it on my part. He probably talked Ben Shapiro into that scheme. That was probably Jeremy's idea. And I'm sorry for speculating, but my years of experience in the media and seeing how when you have a CEO that actually wants to play quarterback rather than general manager, he wants to be in the game and making plays. I've seen this before. I've been in this business since 1990, and I'm just trying to use all of my years of collective wisdom to understand, hey, what's going on over there? Why is the CEO jumping on me about some light criticism and pretending as if that I sit around here and second guess Ben Shapiro every day on this show, when on this show, perhaps we talk about Ben Shapiro once or twice a year? Where's it? Oh, my speculation is that he must have floated this really bad idea to Ben Shapiro, and you be the face of it. And we're going to get the whole Daily Wire behind this campaign to free Derek Chauvin through a presidential pardon from Donald Trump, which won't free Derek Chauvin and will jam up Donald Trump and put him in some hot water he doesn't need this early in his second term. I believe this idea was so bad that someone, the other investors over at the Daily Wire, was like, I think our CEO is doing too much. This free Derek Chauvin movement has blown up in Ben's face, and it's blown up in the Daily Wire's face. It's not taking off, and Donald Trump and his administration came out very quickly and said, I ain't doing that. I think this was, I wouldn't say the beginning of the crash out, but this idea, this whole free Derek Chauvin deal was like the beginning of someone making phone calls behind the scenes. Hey, we may have a problem in the CEO office. The CEO's, he's out here picking fights unnecessarily with Jason Whitlock. And then they're like, well, we got an even bigger problem. He's out here picking fights with Tucker Carlson. And he's out here taking Tucker Carlson out of context. The thing he posted on X 2-3 days ago about Tucker Carlson is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. Guys, go grab and let me text me when you have it. Go grab the clip of Jeremy saying that, hey, I predicted Tucker Carlson was going to say that America was the bad guys in World War II. And then he put out this clip of Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson came nowhere near saying what Jeremy Boring suggested. Grab that clip, text me when we have it, because I want to play it, and I want the audience to see, like, how did we get here? How did Tucker Carlson try to have this nuanced conversation about the aftermath of World War II and what it did to Europe and where Europe is? And like, hey, did we actually win World War II? Because if we did, the results aren't very good for Europe, and perhaps they haven't been the greatest for America either. That's a nuanced conversation that one of the best journalists in America and the journalists, high-profile journalists that I trust the most. The only other one I'd put on Tucker's level is maybe Glenn Greenwald. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's just true. Glenn Greenwald just seems to follow the truth wherever it goes. Matt Taibbi, but anyway, it's Tucker. Obviously, Tucker's a friend of mine, and I'm defensive about Tucker. But I saw this smear of him like, oh, here we go. Tucker's about to get the same treatment that I got. How? Oh my God! All I've done is say, hey, these guys that are holding this conversation about, hey, have we properly evaluated World War II and the ramifications? Did we underestimate the consequences of teaming up with Marxists, the Soviet Union, Stalin? And are there lessons perhaps we should learn from that? But no one is saying, hey, we should have fought for the other side. They're trying to have a conversation about what the ramifications are, and have we told the complete narrative of World War II? Have we explained to the public? How did we get here? How did our culture become so Marxist friendly, so communist friendly? And perhaps it was getting in bed with Joseph Stalin. People want to have that discussion and have every right to have that discussion without being smeared as an anti-Semite. And so here's what Jeremy tweeted about Tucker Carlson. I predicted in January of 2024 that Tucker would conclude America was the bad guy in World War II. I'm not a prophet. It's just been clear for a long time where this was going. You just heard what he said. Now, listen to what Tucker Carlson said to spark that reaction. Play the clip.
I don't want to be dark. I know this is going to be clipped, but like at this point, Europe is so, and I love Europe and I'm there constantly and I have family there. I mean, I really love Europe truly as an American. Yeah. But like, it's so degraded, you know, I don't even want to say it. I'm not even going to say would it actually be worse or not. But it's pretty bad right now.
So that's not me. I didn't go cherry pick that clip. That's the clip Jeremy Boring placed out and placed that tweet, that post above it about, I knew Tucker Carlson was going to say America was the bad guy. Where did he say it? He didn't. This is crazy. This is someone crashing out. And so it's my gut reaction like that, hey, someone over at the Daily Wire, the money people, like, hey, we got a problem in the CEO's office. This guy actually thinks he's the God King, and it's not landing well with his audience, that perhaps, and I don't know the inner workings, I don't know their business model, I don't understand it, but we've seen Candace Owens exit the Daily Wire, and her influence and audience have skyrocketed. Skyrocketed. And Jeremy Boring picked a fight with Candace Owens. And we've seen Brett Cooper exit the Daily Wire. And Jeremy Boring apparently picked a fight with Brett Cooper. And Brett Cooper seems headed on a path for even bigger and more success. Now we're looking at him pick a fight with Tucker Carlson. And we have, like, is this the CEO's job? To be picking a fight with everybody? Shouldn't Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, the actual talent, shouldn't they be the ones picking fights and having public feuds and battles and growing their audience? And so I think someone has said, like, hey, man, I don't know if Jeremy has a firm grasp of where he's steering this ship. I don't think he understands where the conversation is going. And where the conversation is going with this great awakening that's going on in America, everything's getting questioned. Any and everything. If Jason Whitlock says, hey, I weigh 305 pounds today. You can sit there and go, well, that's a reasonable number. Maybe he does. But we live in an era now where people are like, nah, man, I got a scale, get on it. I think you weigh 306. I think you weigh 296. I'm not going to believe what you told me until you get on the scale. We want the JFK files. We want the Epstein files. We want to know what happened on 9/11. We want the right to question everything that has been told to us. There is no settled science. There is no settled narrative. We've been played with and manipulated to the point that we want the right and have the right in a free country to question everything without being smeared as an anti-Semite or a racist bigot or a homophobe or a transphobe or whatever these smears are. And so when I called this man, this is a closeted leftist because his tactics are like leftists. And I think they've said, hey man, let's complete these projects, this TV show that you've got us investing $50, $75, $100 million in. Hey, focus on that. Complete that Hail Mary pass. You can still do Daily Wire backstage, but we can't have you running around with the CEO title and picking all of these fights and being a voice of censorship. Because the narrative is, and I don't know if it's true, but that the Daily Wire is losing audience. And they've lost a lot of audience to the real legitimate MAGA people. The people that didn't wait until it was safe to embrace Donald Trump. Because that's what the Daily Wire did. They waited until it was safe to become MAGA. They waited until everybody was MAGA and it was clear that MAGA was going to win before they hopped on board with Donald Trump. And people are recognizing that now and saying, like, are they really MAGA? Because can you really be MAGA if you don't like Tucker Carlson, if you can't stand Candace Owens, if you can't get along with Brett Cooper, and if you're going to be taking legitimate MAGA people, America First people, you're going to be taking them out of context and smearing them, that's going to cost you audience. And so I think this crash out of Jeremy Boring has been a crash out potentially of the Daily Wire's audience, and they're leaking, and they've been doing, it's like the whole Pardon Derek Chauvin deal was a Hail Mary screaming out to MAGA, hey, don't leave us. We want to free Derek Chauvin, and we want Donald Trump to do it. See how MAGA we are? We want to free Derek Chauvin. That's what it looks like from the outside. Perhaps it's something different. I'm open to hearing another side of the explanation. If you go back and look at my ex-post exchanges with Jeremy Boring, I was, in my view, coming from a legitimate place of like, hey, what are you doing here with Derek Chauvin? Give me an explanation. Matt Walsh is the only one that tried to give me an explanation. Jeremy Boring never did. He just called me names and tried to smear me as an anti-Semite. This crash out is necessary. It's good. It's healthy for the Daily Wire. I'm going to leave it alone from there, and then I'm going to connect it to this next part of the conversation I want to have with you all today, and it's about these sacred victimhood narratives. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about one of the lessons I learned during my whole 2-year process of buying a home and having it renovated. And I've talked about some of the renovation issues and how long that took. What I have not shared with you all is the long process I went to find the right real estate agent to even buy a house. And eventually I landed on the right real estate agent, and Brandy did a marvelous job for me. But But it would have been a whole lot easier if Glenn Beck had told me 2 years ago that he had started a company with some folks called Real Estate Agents I Trust. And they do a remarkable job of vetting out real estate agents so that you don't have to go through the process that I did, where you have to go to 3 or 4 different people before you land on the right real estate agent. And so if you're trying to buy or sell a home, Real Estate Agents I Trust is the perfect partner for you. They pair you with the top selling real estate agents in your area. This is someone who knows the best practices, someone who understands the crazy housing market, someone who's a team leader and a closer, someone you can trust. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home, or both, please get in touch with them. You'll see what I mean. Real Estate Agents I Trust. The name says it all. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. Don't be like me. Don't do it after you've gone through the headaches. Do it beforehand. And Glenn Beck, you should have told me about this company 2 years ago. Could have saved me a lot of headache. I'm saving you headache. All right, let me go back to these sacred narratives, and just what I've been caught up in, and what this all connects to Jeremy and Tucker and these Joe Rogan, his recent interviews with Ian Carroll and Daryl Cooper, and I've gotten myself into dust-ups over X with people that are upset with me because I'm like, hey, everything has to be questioned and needs to be understood at a higher level, including the history of slavery here in America. You know, you can adopt the simple-minded narrative that's been taught: slavery bad, white people enslaved black people in America, they owe us reparations, slavery bad, it's evil. No one can ever explain any nuance to slavery, because there is nuance. And if we don't want to repeat the mistakes from the past, and if we want to know the path forward, we have to understand our real history. And so this is one of the reasons, like, all these people that are upset with a Tucker Carlson or a Candace Owens or a Daryl Cooper or any of these people that are having really, really uncomfortable conversations about world history, I'm on their side. Because we have to have these conversations, because we have such a dumbed down understanding of world history and American history, and we have so little understanding of how our dumbed down understanding of that history shapes our worldview, shapes the decision making that we have, and powers all the dysfunction, racial tension, and animosity that we have going on in American culture. And I happen to think, and let's take the Tucker OTS off the screen for now, because I'm going into an area where he hasn't really discussed this aspect. This is my pet project, that black people, we don't understand our American history. And we think that every day we wake up, we should feel entitled to, oh, we're owed something because, oh my God, the white man enslaved us here in America. And what I'm about to say, many people will not understand, but it's a fact, and it's reality. And so I want to play you this clip that the Hodge twins, these are some guys that are really, really politically incorrect. They're funny. They're black. You know who the Hodge twins are. But I saw this clip they put out, and this is them being politically incorrect and, you know, controversially comedic. But they put out a clip of some Africans eating ice for the first time. And they did this as a joke but there's actually a lesson to be gleaned from this. And people need to get, oh, this is offensive. How dare they mock these people? And don't you feel, and they just want to kill everybody with empathy and sympathy rather than with reality. Let's play SOT number 12. The Hodge twins put this clip out. Let's stop the clip. The Hodge twins put out this clip, and I can't remember what the post was they said, but it was mocking this and basically saying like, hey, these people haven't evolved. And I'm sure there are many people that saw it, and said, oh, these sellout, coon, Stephen from Django, how dare they do this? And that wasn't my reaction. My reaction was, thank God my ancestors were on that boat to America. Thank God they endured the suffering so that I could enjoy the benefits of America. Thank God that I was delivered from that continent, that country, that part of the world that hasn't evolved. And I have no shame in saying this, that I feel blessed to be an American citizen. I feel blessed that my ancestors endured the suffering so that I could receive the benefits of Western civilization, Christianity, and the freedom that we all created here in America. And when I say we, I'm talking about white people and black people and the handful of Latinos that were at the founding of this country. And this is the type of conversation that needs to be being had in terms of like, what were the benefits that we, the living, enjoy because of the suffering of our ancestors? And how should we feel about that suffering? Should we be thankful and gratitude, like, oh my God, what they went through so that I would be a part of a culture, a part of a Christian worldview that promotes evolution, that benefits from human evolution? Or do I need to pretend like, oh, I'm so angry about what they had to go through? I would much rather be somewhere in Africa or in one of these places where American evolution hasn't taken full root and bloom. We can't even have this discussion. And that's why so many people are filled with anger and animus, entitlement, and a lack of gratitude. They have the wrong mindset and they don't understand they're stopping their American evolution by rejecting America, by rejecting Christianity. We have to have this conversation. What are the consequences of the lack of gratitude and the entitled victimhood mindset that so many people have adopted, that they could look at this video and not be overwhelmed with, oh, but for the grace of God, there go I. I could be in 2025 or 2019 or whenever this video was shot and enjoying ice for the first time. We don't have a proper understanding of our Black American history or American history, and it's impacted our worldview and our mindset. It's caused us, because we have the wrong point of view, it's caused us to be angry at Christianity and Western civilization. And so while we enjoy the benefits of the suffering of our ancestors, because right now, any Black American is living in the safest, most prosperous, most opportunity-rich place on the planet for a Black person. It's not over there where they're eating ice for the first time. The safest, most opportunity-rich, the most advanced place for Black people is right here in America. And so I'm so thankful for being here in America. And that's just the surface level of the type of nuance and conversation we need to be having. But we also need to be having a conversation about who actually really did own slaves. What percentage of Americans actually owned slaves? Was a Black man, which I believe is historically true, the first person on American soil to own Black slaves? Were there Black people in the 1700s, free, 1800s, that owned Black slaves? We want to pretend like this slavery thing was, oh, every white person in America owned slaves and they all participated in slavery. It's just not true. And a lot of our history we have no understanding of. And so I'm looking at people debate the history of World War II and debate the history of JFK and debate the Epstein files and 9/11 and blah. It's all healthy. Regardless of what conclusions are drawn, we need to have the conversation so that we can learn from it and not repeat the mistakes of the past. And then I'm looking at us as Black people. We're trapped in a narrative that we're not allowed to question and or discuss. And it's preventing our evolution. It's why we keep making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. It's why we think government will save us. It's why we think the government owes us something rather than, holy cow, if the government would just get out of my way, I will do what men are supposed to do. I will conquer and provide for my family. I'm looking at Asians, I'm looking at Africans come in from, come into this country. I'm looking at Jamaicans come in, and all they see is opportunity, and they go for it. Whereas those of us Black Americans feel like, I ain't doing nothing until the government does it for me, until I get these reparations, and it's all excuses. We have a poisonous mindset where we're not allowed to question things and come to a new understanding that will actually lead to our rise and improvement and evolution. And so when you hear me complain about the people that seem to be pro-censorship, pro-canceling people that think the wrong things or promote the wrong ideas, the reason I reject them is because that's a mindset that will keep Black Americans trapped in the wrong mindset. So what's going on in the conservative media space, the tension, the arguments, the back and forth, this is all healthy and necessary. So that you actually get an understanding of who is and who isn't really based. Who does and who really doesn't believe in the Constitution, the First and Second Amendments. There are a lot of people claiming they believe in free speech, but they don't. They have these little pet narratives and victimhood narratives that they don't want touched. And everything must be touched if we're going to make America great again, if we're going to experience a full revival, if we want to really spread the good news that's in the Bible. You gotta have free speech. And you can't be, oh, well, this person or that person can't be platformed. Because if some of these narratives aren't questioned, and we don't get to a point where like, well, hold on now, if we're really Christians, we don't believe in victimhood. We're not victims. It's an impossibility. We are victors. And so it's all connected. And the way you move people away from a Christian, a biblical worldview, from surrendering to Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior, is by convincing them that they're a victim and that they're owed a debt and that there are things that can and cannot be talked about. Just wanted to get that off my chest as it relates to Jeremy Boring and just the whole, so you have a better understanding of me and what it is we're promoting over here. We believe in free speech. We believe in a search for truth that will lead all kinds of different directions and won't make everybody uncomfortable. We authentically believe, and don't hear this as a shot, even though it is a tiny shot. We authentically believe facts don't care about your feelings. And so, you know, all the lies need to be blown up. I'm going to make this last little point and I'm going to get out of here. I was going back and forth with someone over X about this, and they said, oh my God, so you think the KKK should just been able to lynch people? You know, and that was going on every day. Black people were getting lynched, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, cut it out, man. One, I haven't argued that. And two, this whole lynchings deal has been exaggerated. No different than the police killings of unarmed black people. It's all exaggerated. It's all a narrative. I'm not saying there were no lynchings. I'm saying lynchings were commonplace. You get caught stealing a cattle, a horse, whatever, you could get lynched back in the 1800s, 1700s, and it happened to everybody. And yes, there were lynchings of black people by racist white people. But was it so pervasive? Was it more pervasive? Was it more commonplace than the Bloods and Crips killing your cousin, terrorizing your neighborhood? Who does more terror? Who lived in a greater state of terror than people in these inner city communities right now in America that are afraid of the gangs that control their neighborhoods? Or was it the people in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s that the KKK may have burned a cross in their neighborhood or whatever? Who lived in more terror? Where was death more prevalent? And I had to point out, saying, man, lynchings were it every day. I was like, no, they wasn't. I go, even the NAACP, which is a dubious source, they say from like 1882 to 1965 or somewhere around there were 3,400 lynchings of black people from 1882 to like 1965. How is this every day? And again, this is a dubious source saying this, speculating about what these statistics are. But the question I want to ask, and just have the discussion, and I don't know, are we suggesting no black people lynch black people? Are we really suggesting that? Because I want you to think it through. So this is this real uncomfortable conversation that we have to have if we want people to submit to Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. You have to have real uncomfortable conversations. And so I want you to ask yourself, if the very people that over in Africa captured, enslaved, and sold black people into slavery. These were black Africans that captured, enslaved, and sold black people into European slavery. The descendants of those people, they're incapable of lynching each other from time to time. The very people that live in neighborhoods today where young black men kill each other over disrespect at record numbers, they're incapable of lynching each other? I'm to believe of these 3,400 lynchings from 1882 to 1965, these were all carried out by white KKK members. Black people weren't involved in any of this. So the white man would lynch another white man for stealing a horse, but if a black person did something to a black person in 1882, they'd be like, well, that's my black brother. I'm not going to lynch him. I'm not going to do anything to him. I'll save that until 2005 and let the Crips and the Bloods or the 1980s, I'll let the black people in the future, they'll kill each other, but here in 1875, I'm incapable of that. Just think, these are very uncomfortable conversations. If we avoid them, we avoid the solution to the mindset and to the behavior. See, once you understand the true history and deal with the ugliness of it, oh, you'll drop to your knees and you'll submit. You'll understand, like, woo, the only thing that'll civilize me is Jesus Christ. Until you've been humbled like that, until you've taken a true assessment of who you are without Jesus Christ, you'll never submit. And that's why so many of these people that call themselves Christians, go to church every Sunday, deacon here, deacon there, but they haven't really submitted because they don't have a true understanding of exactly who we are as human beings. And I'm talking about all of us, regardless of the amount of melanin you have in your skin. Christianity will civilize you and make you a better man. You want to do this little fake, phony, racialized Christianity? It will not heal you or fix you. It will leave you in a deluded state, running around thinking, hey, we got a battle between black people and white evangelicals. Got to look at the man in the mirror, and that's a very uncomfortable conversation and look. Anyway, I'm going to bring on Shemeka Michelle. We're going to talk about Don Lemon. I'll ask her a little bit about Jeremy Boring, and we'll wrap this show up with Shemeka Michelle. Next. Men, it's time to rise. Our country, our faith, our future, all under attack. I'm bringing the boldest voices to Nashville. Woke Call 3.0 is your call to action. Join me, join Tucker, and let's take a stand together. May 2nd and 3rd in Nashville. I am Jason Whitlock, your host.
Went without so that he could give you an abundant life.
Young men shall utterly fall. Jason, I know you called us to preach off, but I feel like preaching up in here right about now.
All right, welcome back. Busy day in the conservative media space. I wanted to bring on Shemeka Michelle to talk about Don Lemon. You guys remember Don Lemon, don't you? He used to be a big shot over at CNN. He's the gay man married to a white man who thinks white men are evil and racist. Don Lemon was on with Bill Maher and said that people like myself and Shemeka, Black MAGA, we should basically, There's no rational justification for the way that we think. Let's play the clip, and then me and Shemeka will respond. Here's Don Lemon.
It's the same thing that when I see not all black Republicans, but I see a black MAGA person who is carrying Donald Trump's water and they know that he's lying, it is the shortest line to the front. Because if you're black and you're whatever, you're just in line with a bunch of other Democrats that are doing the same thing that you're doing. But if you become a black MAGA person, it's like, whoa, let's book this person, let's put him on television.
So you don't think you can be a sincere black MAGA person?
No, I just said, I don't think that. I just said I think there can be sincere Republicans,
but you can't be a sincere black Republican.
I don't think that you can be a rational MAGA, be black and be a rational MAGA person. I think you can be black and be a Republican.
I think they would find that very insulting.
Well, I mean, the truth is often insulting.
Let me start. And I don't want to take you a bad direction, Shemeka, but I just got to be real, and so what my gut reaction is. And so try to stay inside the lines that I'm about to go outside of. But a rational person, a rational person bends over and takes it up the rear end from another man, and this man wants to comment about me being irrational because I support Donald Trump and MAGA. We want to talk about rational, bending over and taking it up the rear end, dropping to your knees and swallowing another man, and this man wants to talk about who's rational and who's not. This man is an idiot. Anyway, I'll have some less profane thoughts here when I'm just fired up today, but Shemeka, go ahead, Shemeka. Please stay inside. I went outside the lines. Color inside the lines, Shemeka.
Okay, Jason, I will do my best to color inside the lines. You know, I do think there's some truth to what he's saying, that the truth can be insulting. And I do understand why he wouldn't see, you know, our train of thought as rational, because I don't see anal pole vaulting as a rational train of thought, but somehow he thinks it's natural. When I hear MAGA, of course we understand that it means make America great again. They always think that it's so hard for Black people to think back to a time when America was great. They want us to go back to Jim Crow or take us back to slavery. For me, someone who was born in 1975, America was great to me when I could play in my neighborhood without the thought of being shot. Our neighborhoods are run down now, and the kids don't have that same freedom. The kids don't have the same freedom that we had to just walk to the store comfortably and safely with 50 cents and come back with your friends and spread out a napkin and have a little party. When I was young, I could walk to my neighbor's house and walk right in. It wasn't dead bolted. There was no alarm system, no camera watching the door. That's when America was great to me. So it really makes me annoyed or angry when someone like Don Lemon says you can't be Black and be MAGA. You have to be a Black Republican. I'm not registered a Republican, and I do understand that there were Democrats, there were libertarians, there were people unaffiliated like myself that actually believe that Donald Trump had the ability to make America great again. We actually thought he was the better candidate against Kamala, against Joe Biden, and against Hillary. So to say that we can't have a rational train of thought is just silly to me. You know, but I get how he doesn't understand it, how he can't wrap his brain around it. I can't wrap my brain around eating clean to have what should be a natural act so that my sheets won't be filled with shit and blood. You know, so I get that he doesn't understand it, because there are things about me that I don't understand about things about him. You know, he lays down every night and sword fight with a man that looks just like the ones he claims are the most dangerous people in America. So I get that he doesn't understand it. I don't understand him.
I love the point you made, and I'm going to bear down on that or go that direction. The point you made that he's arguing is like, hey, how can you black people be MAGA, make America great again? Because you're now saying that there was some time in the past when America was great. And Don Lemon completely rejects that and thinks that we all should think that. And I get where he's coming from, because if we go back, there was a time when same-sex marriage was illegal. And he's a gay person, and he thinks being married to some other man is some important thing. And so he's like, oh, back then, blah, blah, blah. But for black people like myself, and this connects to what I was talking about earlier in the show, those of us of my age and even a little bit younger, if you talk to your parents about what it was like for them growing up in the 1950s, 60s, maybe even the 1940s, 70s, and everybody thinks like, oh God, it was so terrible. There was segregation. You weren't allowed. And I've had these conversations with my parents. They weren't miserable. They were not miserable. Did some bad things happen? Emmett Till, whatever, down in Mississippi? Yes. But those bad things, whatever, this is the argument I'm trying to get people to understand. Emmett Till getting killed is no more or less of a tragedy than the gangbanger who killed someone's 15-year-old son in a drive-by shooting. We tend to, oh my God, white people killed Emmett Till. That's so much worse than what the Crips and the Bloods do to each other and do to neighborhoods every day, or what the terrorism that the KKK did in the 40s and 50s. That's worse than the terrorism that street gangs do today in these neighborhoods. And it's just not true. And so my dad is now passed, but I talked to my mother about her upbringing in all black neighborhoods where the dentists and the doctors that she went to actually lived within walking distance of their house, and how much fun they had and how much they enjoyed their childhood, and their whole life wasn't built around, oh, do I get to eat at a restaurant next to a white person? Did they want that right? Yes. But were they sitting around when they were eating at home or eating in restaurants in their own community, sitting there, oh God, I wish I could go eat with white people? They weren't. And even I'm just 57, but again, when I think about my favorite place on earth, it was either Jimmy's J Bar J, the second bar my father owned, or it was the Masterpiece Lounge, which that's Mecca for me. That was an all-black experience, and I loved it. And it's not because it was an all-black experience. I just loved the people there. I loved the music. I loved the food we would cook. I'd love the stories that were told. I would love the engagement with my father's friends, the way we danced, the music that was played, the whole 9 yards. And I wouldn't be sitting at the Masterpiece Lounge going, oh God, this would be so much better if half the crowd was white, or if we were at some white neighborhood bar. My enjoyment wasn't predicated on that. And these people that feel like, oh, I can't really be free or I can't really enjoy life unless I'm doing it in a white neighborhood or around white people, you're the irrational people. And you don't understand people like me. You don't understand people like Jimmy Whitlock, Joyce Whitlock, my Aunt Dorothy, or any of these. And so I think there's just a lot of lying about how miserable and terrible things were in the past. And I'm not saying everything was great in the past either. But this whole like, oh, we were so unsafe. Well, are we safe now? Now that our families have been destroyed, now that men have been run out of the community, there's more terrorism and more fear now than then. My mother and him was in all black neighborhoods with the doors unlocked.
Yes.
Walking up and down the street, everybody knew each other, blah, blah. They were safer then than we are now. The lies at some point have to stop. Shemeka, I'll give you a final thought here on Don Lemon, and
yeah,
we'll close this out.
You know, when they talk about revisionist history, that's the revisionist history. You're trying to change what it actually was. I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, went to all-black schools, went to an all-black church, and life was good. When I listened to my grandmother, who is 91 years old, talk about times when she was a little girl, she's not telling us about the white man who hated them or who didn't want to see them succeed. They're telling us about times when they played outside, when they helped, you know, with growing the food that they ate. These were nice times in America when their father, who did not have a college degree, was able to go to work and still provide for 9 children. This was a good time in America. So they want us to walk around and feel oppressed and be angry and hate white people, and that's just not the reality. They do the same thing when it comes to men and women. They act like every woman on the planet was Miss Seeley getting beat by Mr. That's not the way that it was. There were couples that were in love, they were having a great time, and America was good. So I just can't buy into this. And when people like Don Lemon sit on national television and tell these lies, it just really gets under my skin. And somebody like Bill Maher should have checked him, because you want to talk about irrational? We can talk about it, Don, but you're not having a very truthful conversation, because the truth can sometimes be insulting.
My argument, Don Lemon is totally disconnected from the average black person. And again, just go check his house after about 6 p.m. Ain't no black people around other than him. And,
right.
But I want to leave that alone. Shemeka, I do want to give you a chance to just, if you had a quick thought, react to what I was also talking about earlier. Jeremy Boring stepping down as the CEO of the Daily Wire. I find this fascinating. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. It seems like perhaps he's lost his feud with Candace Owens and Brett Cooper, and just too big of a personality, and rather than being an executive and a proper leader for the Daily Wire. But just briefly, your thoughts on Jeremy Boring stepping down as the CEO.
You know, Jason, I think he's been crashing out for a while. We've seen a lot of emotional displays from him over maybe the last year or so, starting with Candace Owens, in my opinion. So I'm not shocked. I do think this is the best thing, because I don't feel like he's given us the best example of a man, of a CEO. All we see lately is him whining and being a crybaby. So I think it's best. Hopefully the Daily Wire can bounce back, but I'm not shocked at all, because he's just been doing things that I wouldn't expect from a CEO. I wouldn't expect from a man. He's just really been falling apart and being very emotional on social media, and just picking fights like the one he tried to have with you, saying that you were saying something that you absolutely did not say. That was a clear sign that he was off his rocker and that his focus was off.
Shemeka, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom.